Shall we start? Okay. Thank you for joining our group session today. And here is the agenda of today. I'll quickly go over the ZeBrand branding process and then learn and discuss about how to create a customer persona. Then follow it up with Q&A. And we have a special offer at the end. For the discussion and Q&A time, you can use your hand or the reaction button on the Zoom menu. So for those who aren't familiar with what we do, ZeBrand is an online branding platform mainly made for small business owners and startups. We want to make branding accessible for everybody who needs it, not only for the big and famous companies. And today we have our brand coach, Zach, to guide us in how to create a customer persona. Hi, Zach.
Hi, excited to be here. Thank you.
And my name is Motoko from ZeBrand team, customer support team. And nice to meet you all. So as I mentioned, I'd like to go over a branding approach really quick. If you are familiar with the traditional branding process, you know it could take a long time and can require a large budget. And as our mission is to enable you to brand your way, we want to provide you with the optimal environment for all branding needs. To do this, we've broken down the process to define, design, and deliver. First, you define your brand. It's about knowing what your brand is and who you want it to deliver it to and how to do it. And then you design your visual identity. And finally, deliver your brand to the world. But as you see, the process never ends because you can only know your brand, your audience would feel about your brand once you deliver it. It is necessary to always be aware of how your brand is perceived by your audience and adjust it if needed. And also, the environmental changes are so fast these days, your audience behavior changes quite often. That leads to our topics of today, which is customer persona. So can you explain what customer persona is?
Yeah, customer personas are really, really critical aspects of any organization's success in marketing and branding. Just first and foremost, because everything that you know about your customer is distilled down onto, usually it's a page, but there are examples that are longer than a page, but most of the time it's just one page that gets the most important details about what you know about your customer onto a page. So you can use that both internally in your organization to make sure that employees understand, as well as externally with potential investors to help, investors understand, the seriousness of your venture and, that you've done your research and have identified a key customer persona. And we'll look at an example, the ZeBrand example in a little while. But I think for now, critically, it's really, really important that a customer persona, if it's going to be successful, needs to go beyond just demographic information and really try to get at the psychographics, the psychology of your customer, because really what we're trying to do in branding is make an emotional connection, a values level connection, something that's just a little bit higher order and above just product features and benefits. The most successful brands create that emotional connection. And in order to do that with your target audience, you really need to understand them psychologically and go beyond just, 50-year-old, female, lives in San Francisco, et cetera. So in a nutshell, then it's that one piece of customer intel on a page that guides you both internally and externally, and then really homes in on the psychology of your ideal target and brings them to life.
Okay, why do I need a customer persona?
The biggest need really is a lot of mistakes that people make early on is, you're really excited about your brand and your business, and you want to be for everybody. You think that you're for everybody, But if you're for everybody, then you're not actually for anybody in particular. And so the customer persona really sharpens the lens on that psychological mindset I was discussing earlier. Really just puts, plants your flag and says, this is who our ideal customer is for our organization. And it helps everyone in the organization understand that customer as well. And, it's really that distillation of, everything that and it guides your brand marketing, your tone of voice, your visual language. It's really a foundational piece of any brand. And it guides so much of, like I said, the presentation of the brand in the world that it's a really, really important thing that we need to have.
I see. So when is it important to just decide on customer persona?
Well, as soon as possible, right? Like, your customer persona it's related to your brand foundationally, what your brand is. The mindset that you're after is going to be connected to, your product offering and what you do and what you stand for as a brand. So, you're really thinking about it from the beginning. And, a lot of entrepreneurs that I've talked to really, they have customers in mind already. And that's kind of what got them going and got them excited about their business, because they understood that there was this, need in the world. And so, you can start with just that, but the sooner the better to get going with the customer persona. But, as Motoko mentioned, you're never finished with the process of, defining and delivering that we shared earlier. It's an iterative process that goes back and forth. So you can always revise and add more detail to your customer persona over time, and change it as you learn more about how your brand is being delivered in the world and how people are connecting with it. But as soon as possible, it's great to start.
I see. And how do you identify customer persona? Like something like asking them directly?
Yeah, honestly, what I talk to a lot of people about, it starts with yourself as an entrepreneur and somebody that's starting a business, because there's oftentimes a really strong, emotionally resonant reason for starting that business. We call that the why. Like, why does this business exist? What values do I have? Well, what values do I see my customer having as well? So, you start from that place of passion that you founded your business with, and the why that's there, like, the why for the world, why people will benefit, why people will care. And that is your really most critical first step towards, defining your persona, because you start to see, okay, who shares this mindset? What kind of person in the world is interested in these same values that my company is trying to, achieve? And that leads you to, your first important step. I mean, really, we're trying with any business to, get somebody to care so much that they change their behavior and go out and do something and take an action and support and pay for your product or service or business. And you think about it, that's a huge challenge and a huge leap. So that emotional why piece is so important. My favorite stat is that 71% of brands could disappear and people wouldn't care. We really only care about 29% of brands, and those are the ones that are nailing that why emotional values level connection that they share with their audience in a really credible way. So that right there is the most important step for identifying your customer persona. And after you've got that, it's always good to start talking to people if you can. They can be friends, family at first, or do networking and try to get yourself in front of people that you think your customer is. And, then that just helps you validate everything that you're beginning to, theorize and put down on paper, and you can refine through those conversations as well. And also, I think it's really important, I should mention too, that it's important to pay attention. We often think that culture is maybe disconnected from our consumers, but, of course we're not. The culture shapes our changing expectations and demands and desires and even what's possible. I mean, think about everything in the world right now. So it's really good to pay attention to culture too, and how culture might be affecting this, developing customer mindset that you're starting to understand. And, once you got those pieces in place, it's then time to start to put pen to paper and start, validating your thoughts and writing things down.
Mm. And how do you write a customer persona? Like, what information should be included?
Yeah, let's jump on to the next slide. Let's look at the ZeBrand example.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is an example of a good customer persona. What you see here is really two sides, right? There's the left side that's got an image, a name. It's important to humanize your customer. This is not a real person. Usually, it's just a composite, idealized picture of your customer that you've arrived at through research. But name, picture, then that demographic information I mentioned. And you start to get into their, how they think about the world. Are they introverted and extroverted? So it's good to have a sense of, just their reaction to the world and their, how they just are as a person. That's why the personality meters there are good to have, because, we're such a small part of our customers' lives. Like a lot of businesses think that they take up a lot of space in people's, minds, but really, people are out there just doing their own thing, and they're not thinking about, brands and businesses really all that much. And some people never, if they can help it. So, it's good to have a sense of, personality, because, it's just a nice reminder of, who the person is. And then on the right, we get into that really important, more emotional stuff, like, pain points and frustrations, wants and needs and aspirations and goals. And I think aspirations is really, really important. What does your customer aspire to, in the future in their life, and how does your brand or product or service, enter into that and help them achieve what they're trying to achieve, help them, get to where they're trying to go. I was working with through ZeBrand a few months ago. I was working with an entrepreneur who he was starting a sustainable fitness equipment company. And, right there, he was wanting to tap into, of course, just desires for, a better, more clean, sustainable world. And so it's good to, capture that in, all of your aspirations. That's where you can lay out the sort of the shared values that, you have with your potential customers. And goals are, of course, very similar. Where are they trying to go? Because people are always using brands and products to do things for them socially. They buy things for their home that make them, look a certain way to other people, to when their guests come over, or, they want to wear the right kind of fashions because it helps me fit in or stand out, or, whatever it is, right? So you see, it's important to understand them at that kind of level, so exactly where your brand fits into their life and emotions, and so that you can make that connection at the values level, instead of just saying, here's a product, here's its price, buy it. People aren't moved by that. So that's why on the right side, understanding the pain points. What are we solving for this person in their life, and where are they trying to go, and how are we helping them get there? What's really important to them as far as their future.
Okay, but when I'm deciding on customer persona, what is the traps or what things to be careful for?
Yeah, I think the big, as I said, get started early. But the biggest trap, I think, is deciding too soon. Like just having a hunch, like this is it. Not doing the research and the due diligence to make sure. I think, like I said, trying to talk to as many people that you think are your customers potentially as you can is really, really, really important, because we just learn so much from other people. So just deciding too soon without doing that is a trap. Another trap is, as I said before, was just, you have to, don't be afraid of specificity. Don't fear that, oh, I feel like I'm painting this person a little small in terms of, that's like too narrow in terms of their aspirations and goals, but really there's so many other people. And what if I don't want to neglect them? I don't want to lose them too. So if you try to be for everybody and you make your communications and your brand appeal to too many people, the end result is, a really generic, flat sounding brand that doesn't, attract people. So, it's a lot of the best brands have been nurtured at the grassroots level through, people that are passionate about the things that they're doing. And so it's okay to be small. It's good to be small and niche, especially in a very saturated, competitive, marketplace with lots and lots of brands vying for people's attention. So, don't be for everybody, you'll be for nobody. So it's just, that would be another trap, I would say.
Okay. Last question I have. Can you give me a good example and a bad example of the customer persona?
Yeah, I think, a bad example would be none of the information that's on the right side of this page. So if I don't read this and you don't know anything about, again, I keep saying the word emotion over and over and over, but it is so important. So if a customer persona didn't have any of that kind of stuff that, indicated how a person feels and what they're trying to, like I said, do in the world, you wouldn't really be able to do much with it in the way of guidance for developing a brand tone of voice and a brand, look and feel, and, really a brand value set. So that would be, I think same thing. That's the example of the good and the bad. So you need that. And if you don't, then it'd really be lacking.
Oh, thank you. So in case you didn't know, ZeBrand provides a set of brand strategy frameworks, which you build your brand strategy using them. And what you just saw was as one of them. And you can see that on your home screen when you log into ZeBrand account. It's on your left side menu bar. And we are now going to start the Q&A session. Why don't we talk about the general questions we got while we wait for more questions? Zach, can I ask, how can branding help your business succeed?
Yeah. It's obviously super important. As we mentioned before, the 71% of brands could disappear and nobody would care. And the reason that, there's 29% of brands that people, would sorely miss, it's because, they're either fulfilling a really important function or, role in their lives, or, the way they're doing things is really, really, emotionally appealing. And I'm really connected to that brand as a person. We want brands that help us see us and, achieve what we're trying to achieve. We want brands that are like us and, share the same values. And so, as I've said a few times, like, you can't just, here's my product, buy it. The brand is everything else. It's everything else that goes over and above that makes that connection and keeps any sort of communication that you have, whether that's an ad or an interaction with the brand, cohesive and of the same place. And, that's how people will remember you.
Nice. Hey, Zach, what are the common questions you get in a one-on-one coaching session?
Oh, that's a good question. I really like the one-on-one coaching sessions because it's a chance to just go, you can go deep with somebody for an hour on their, particular problem. So really, it's kind of all over the board. It depends on where the person is at and what they're really wrestling with at that time. So, a lot of times it's about, some people are really business savvy. Like they really spent a lot of time like putting their business plan together, and which is not at all like the brand and the brand strategy. So like that piece is sometimes neglected by people that have focused more on the business. So then it's kind of conversations like this, like, how do I build a brand? What's really important? And how do I connect my brand building so it'll achieve my business goals? So that's one side. And a lot of it is other people will jump right to, colors. A lot of times, what should my colors be? It's like, okay, let's take a step back, and then let's analyze what is the foundation of this brand that will give rise to the right colors will then, they'll appear once we know that. So those are kind of generally the two cases that I tend to talk to most.
Mm-hmm. I see.
I think that is so true, because even with the rest of our marketing strategy, we don't do the marketing strategy yet. We dive into the things that we want to do already, and then we go back to do the strategy. So it's like it's not the right way to do it, but you get so excited with the implementation part that we forget about why are we even doing this. So,
yeah. It's the fun stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
So in terms of the strategy, we have 3 different types, which is a business strategy and marketing strategy and brand strategy. Well, it just happens to focus on a marketing strategy. You feel like you want to jump right into the marketing, but what's the best what's the best order to work on? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Brandon. Sorry, do you have a question?
No, sorry. It's okay. You can go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, I think business strategy is usually always first. It's like, what do my awareness numbers need to go up to this, or I need to sell this much, or there's the money stuff, right? All that stuff is always first. But then brand strategy should be first too. Because we need to figure out what we stand for and who we're for and all that stuff we were talking about. And then in order to then do marketing in the world to make people feel, understand, believe in, trust our brand, get them to care and know about us to achieve the business goals. So I think marketing strategy is actually probably the third thing, and kind of business and brand are kind of first and go together.
I see.
No, I was just about to say that when we were doing our business plan, that we were doing very good at the first part, which is the business and all the research. But then when we landed on to marketing and sales, it feels like it's a big black hole, because there's so much to do. There's just like, we cannot move on past it. We cannot even go to finance yet, because there's so much, several things to cover. So not just about brand, there's like all the sales funnel and all the things that we want to, itemize and all this. So it's such a big chunk. And even though we're not there yet, we're really trying to catch up already, because once the product is there, then it goes very fast. And
I think hearing you talk about that, it reminded me of, it's called How I Started This. And it's I think you'd probably really like it for the reasons you were just saying. It's a great podcast that interviews company founders, how I started it, so like how they went from business plan to, marketing plan, and then scaled that and grew. It's just entrepreneur after entrepreneur, like just having an interview and, telling that story and their version for themselves, because, I think people think first all the time, oh, what's my Facebook ad need to look like? Or, like things like that versus, what movement am I starting, right? Like, what are the passion hooks? And then we can figure out what the Facebook post is. I know it's like 2 steps back to hopefully take 5 forward, but yeah.